both times around. So they were struggling to find consistency. They were clutching on Ryu making insane plays like day one's backdoor. All those kinds of stuff is why they were getting their advantages, but it didn't feel very consistent, like it was something that was going to happen. This series, I do like what I've seen out of them, and it's something that they can probably clutch on and hope to ride Ryu's good performance with Mike Young having a solid mid-game so far.
Well, like you said before, Mark, the bans will stay the same, but the picks have the potential to change. We'll see if Phoenix1 opts into the same Kalista priority they did beforehand when the champion select was remade. And it looks like that they were hovering the Kalista, and it would potentially be, overall, you mentioned, the utility that it gives for Arrow and the ability to throw in a very tanky support is something that you can't deny from this Kalista pickup, so they will lock that in from Phoenix1's side.
Yep. Picks end up the same. They were pretty happy with it overall. Split up the Kalista Thresh lane, one of the most dominant lanes. Makes sense to see that. Rek'Sai has seen some importance over the course of the series, so eUnited gonna grab that. Question is, where does Phoenix1 go here? They probably want to grab something for Ryu so he cannot get heavily focused down again. Potentially looking at that Ballista bot lane.
They'll go for it.
All right. Get to see Special on Blitzcrank this time around.
Yeah, so he's on the opposite side of the hook matchup that was in game number 1. But he also has a little bit of a cheat system because he has the Kalista to be able to throw him in. And we'll see if they wind up prioritizing something here for Ryu like they did in game 2 by picking the Talia or something, which they actually do lock in here. Or maybe they go for a jungler, but with that off the table, there you go.
So we'll have to see what eUnited goes for here. If they don't pick a mid laner, they will receive some bans thrown that way, most likely. And if they go with a mid laner, they're going to lose the Tristana. And depending on what eUnited's looking for here, it's probably not the end of the world, but with how important Tristana has been over the course of this series, no surprise to see that one being taken away.
The GBM has played a large variety of champions, although to varying degrees of success. He still has the ability to kind of rely on, his kind of mental checklist of all these different kinds of champions he's played in his long career throughout both EU and NA LCS, in addition to his LCK experience. The Orianna was untouched in game 2, so coming into game 3, that could be something we see him fall back onto if there's a heavy priority around the mid lane bans, as Cassiopeia could get banned out. We could see Vladimir and LeBlanc potentially being banned away, so they could harper down on that champion pool. But we see eUnited being the ones that target up the jungle pool from Mike Young, attacking the Nidalee and the carry potential coming out from that role.
Yep, no jungler taken. Just want to limit some of the volatility that can come with the Nidalee pick. And then the Cassiopeia ban, great performance game 1 out of GBM with that. It's one of probably his best performing champion this tournament so far. So once again, no surprise to see that one taken away. The Maokai, I do like a lot. That was one of the champions that gave eUnited a ton of problems in game 1. While it was not prioritized in game 2, you don't want to potentially give that one up as the junglers haven't been locked in yet, and give that one over to Mike Young.
So 2 big junglers taken away. Well, 3 if you count the Elise in the first ban phase. So see what Mike Young winds up falling down to. Like you mentioned, Zac priority has kind of dipped completely off of the radar. Gragas is still available, which you saw Dandy utilizing in the previous game. We see a Shen ban coming through here from Phoenix1. So targeting down on Licorice in addition to GBM, but also kind of taking another page out of the equation here. You already know that there's a Thresh on their side, so you don't need to ban out something like Lulu, but you have the Shen to protect the Tristana.
And GBM is going to take one of Ryu's signature champions right into him, taking the LeBlanc. GBM is an aggressive playmaker. This does fit into his playstyle very well, but can you pull it off versus the master himself?
We'll have to see. See how deceptive GBM can be on the LeBlanc pickup, and we'll see exactly what Ryu will do on the Talia into this matchup as well. Both of them are actually in the later stages of the game can kind of go into different sideways. Like you said, both of them can influence the sides of the map quite effectively.
I'm a little surprised to see the LeBlanc taken first. They're prioritizing getting counterpicked for Licorice, but they give up the Gnar, which is something that I feel like they would have been okay blinding. We'll have to see if they have a nice counterpick prepared for it. In the meantime, Phoenix1 considering that Zac pick, it is something that was nerfed relatively heavily on 7.15 with the changes to his stretching strikes and how much damage you do to yourself when you cast it. Last second, swap over to the Sejuani, something Mike Young has played a little bit during his time in the NA LCS.
Not a heck of a lot on the Sejuani, although it is something he's played at least one time. But that pickup will be something that provides, once again, another beefy front line. He has the ability to lock somebody down with the Glacial Prison. And actually, we see now the Camille being picked into the
that's exactly why they did not take the Gnar first right away. They wanted to give themselves one of their win conditions, which they had in game 1 of the series yesterday. Licorice, a pretty good Camille player overall, and he's had effectiveness even when he gets shut down, which is something that you always worry about when you take a carry-oriented champion is, oh, I got ganked early on, I died, and now I'm useless the entire game. Licorice showed that even when he's 0-4-1, he can provide pressure and opportunities for his team. This time around, on it versus Zig. He is one of the primary carries for this team. Licorice has been phenomenal over the course of the Challenger Series. He's going to have to turn out the Jets here in Game 3 to keep eUnited alive.
He's definitely going to have to work a little overdrive here as the coaches shake hands going into game number 3. This could potentially be match point for Phoenix1, getting themselves out of the promotion tournament, but this could just be the start of a reverse sweep coming in from eUnited. If they want to emerge victorious in the promotion tournament, they got to do it 3 games in a row against an opponent that they've already had struggles with in the past 2 games.
But if history's any indication, Phoenix1 gives themselves a lot of trouble in games 3 or 4, so you might see an opportunity here for eUnited. It is a very snowbally comp in some senses for eUnited here. If the LeBlanc gets shut down, she struggles in late game team fights. If the Camille gets shut down, the same story. Both of them want to go into that 1-3-1 setup eventually, but you're doing it into a Talia, and we've seen Ryu is a phenomenal player at getting out into the side lanes and influencing those kind of matchups. So this is a very tall task for eUnited, kind of going all in here.
Well, we'll see which of these trends holds true. Can eUnited maintain their legacy of P1 going to 5 games in the promotion tournament? Or will it be eUnited going 3 games in a series in the promotion tournament, 0-3 and 3-0 respectively, facing down to 0-2 right now, but all of them are kind of grouped up towards the top side of the map here. eUnited may be expecting a little bit of jungle invade shenanigans from the side of P1. They did wind up doing this last game to help get Mike Young on the Rek'Sai, just scouting information on where Dandy was going to be. So it looks like eUnited kind of learning this time around and seeing if they're doing the same thing.
It's one of the things you have to be careful of. I like Phoenix1's decision to not. They do have a lot of tools to go aggressive here with the Blitzcrank and things like that. So you see enemy teams often group up in prediction. But Phoenix1 changing up their aggression on level 1 last time around with the Braum. They get in the other team's face. Another extremely strong level 1 champion. This time, much more defensive focus.
So P1 not going to be doing any sort of jungle invade shenanigans. eUnited are going to be starting off with Danny on the top side of the rift, whereas Mike Young's Sejuani looks like he's going to be starting over on the blue buff. So they'll be starting on the same side of the rift, but on different buffs, so not necessarily mirroring each other's jungle pathing. And we'll see where the focus from both of these junglers actually happens to fall in this game. Game number 1, they've targeted down Ryu super hard when he was playing Syndra. He's a little bit more mobile on the Talia, has the heal and the flash available. However, GBM is also on a champion that if you get that LeBlanc rolling, she will completely steamroll.
And Talia is a champion that you do find some opportunities to do that too. Her E is very annoying in a 1v1 sense against the LeBlanc, where she tries to dash forward. You kind of like limit the options she has for that. But all things considered, you do have great gank setup. You can have a flash Umbaro out of Dandy, and if you land the chain, it's very easy to find that kill onto her. She's not mobile at all. So you can expect a lot of focus down the top half of the map for eUnited, trying to find opportunities to snowball Licorice and GBM. Licorice is a great Camille player, so if he gets ahead, that can be a disaster. And on the flip side, P1, they have a lot of playmaking down the bot side with that Kalista and Blitzcrank. Sejuani not a super aggressive champion pre-6, so probably going to be a lot more focus on just trying to stabilize that early game out of eUnited.
So we painted a picture as to where both of these teams get aggressive early on. We see Special going to the enemy jungle, utilizing that blast cone. They know that Dandy, if you start on the top side of the map, may make his way down there. Doesn't want to have a free gank path right behind them when they're pushing up that aggressively. But Dandy is on the top side of the map, still doing a full clear of his top side jungle, actually burning the flash out of Zay immediately on this gank.
Really strange timing gank there out of Dandy. Phoenix1 is almost positive he starts on that top side as Rek'Sai, almost no reason to ever start on the bot side, and he does a full clear of the top side, like you said, which results in him still being in top river 3 minutes into the game despite starting up there. So Zig did not have his ward out, was pretty sure he was going to be fine since there was a level 2 gank. Really nice jump out there by Deftly. But a nice time gank out of Dandy, just one of those mix-ups that's not super efficient, but does net his top laner a lead.
As you mentioned, Licorice, no slouch on the Camille, so now that he has a summoner spell advantage. We'll see how he's able to exert his prowess on this champion over the Gnar pickup coming in from Zig. Zig in game number 1 was getting the best of the Gnar versus Shen matchup. Licorice, on the other hand, was getting the best of the Gnar versus Shen matchup in game 2. Now it's a different kind of style of champion, like you mentioned before. This is the matchup we saw Licorice playing into solo just the other day. We'll see how it goes.
Gonna wonder if that ward can see this Gromp take. Otherwise, the bot lane of Phoenix1 might be playing far back in anticipation of a flash lantern gank. One of those times where Vision is very important. Well, he's on the blue buff, so they know for sure he's there.
Now they know that Dandy's down there on the rec side. So they'll play Act Accordingly. We see Special moving up into the river, putting a little extra vision down and maybe being a little annoying with a pull, but instead gonna play it safe. Same time, Callista just backs off.
Yeah, has those Sentinels running through the river to secure a little extra vision to keep that pressure up on the bot side. No tangible advantage, and there you see the 1v1 trading going relatively even. Ryu getting out a little bit better. Mike Young could be getting caught out in these Raptors.
Little aggressive counter jungling from the Sejuani pickup here, but a level under Dandy. Is going to get in the slowdown now. Ryu trying to follow after. Long range stun afterwards, and first blood actually goes over to Ryu off the seismic shove.
Really nice awareness there on Phoenix1 to know that despite likely having a weaker mid-jungle 2v2 in the early game, the circumstance was one that was still favorable for them. GBM had just took a trade in the mid lane. It did not go very favorably. Ryu had the push advantage to get over there first, and they could take that trade. They get the stun on Dandy, and Ryu's able to get the follow-up flash to get the kill.
Look at that. It's the second game in a row. Mike Young's donated Ryu a blue buff. You see, actually, Licorice getting aggressive on Zig now. Just one more auto attack, and the reset. Licorice just erases Zig.
And there we talk about the Licorice game plan. We'll take a look at this first blood once again. Dandy thinks he scares him. Hold on, never mind. We got fights on the bot side.
Yeah, we got Deathly and Zeyzal going in for a trade against Arrow. The explosive charge is going to land, and Deathly's able to pick up a kill. He flashes forward to try to secure that one, but now he's just cutting off Special. Rocket jumps onto him to get the slow down, but Special, a little bit too tanky. He's going to survive.
Gonna survive, but there you get to see why that Tristana pick can do well into that Callista. You land the explosive shot onto her, as well as if you hit the hook, which can be difficult to do versus Callista, but if you do get it, you can go for the all-in. Works out there for eUnited. Here we see some of that aggression that they were sorely lacking in the previous game, but they also need this time around with their low tank, high damage team comp.
So eUnited may have lost out in the mid lane matchup, but able to capitalize on the top and bottom. We got a replay here at the bottom fight, how it started. It looks like it's just a hook onto Zeyzal, and they think that it's going in P1's favor.
They think it is, but there you see, it just puts Zeyzal in a position to get the hook onto Arrow. Lantern's definitely in range. He's able to get the explosive shot onto her and get a lot of auto attacks to pump up the damage on it. Special is able to get away, doesn't actually lose any summoners, but what looked like just an attempt to trade onto Zeyzal a little bit with that hook. You see the Ignite was not even popped. Phoenix1 was not looking for an all-in at all, but they just end up getting hooked out there and get solo killed.
Yeah, we saw how aggressive Arrow and Special were playing on that bottom side, but now they've given an influx of gold over to Deathly, so he's been able to complete his BF sword on his first back, compared to just a Vampiric Scepter and a dagger on the side of Callista. So advantages for the Tristana on the bottom side, but eUnited are going to be looking to try to push this advantage back on the top side. Zig's flash still not available. The ultimatum gets thrown down by Licorice, so now they're stuck in the octagon. Zig, though, going to transform, just gnars them back, so he's actually able to survive.
Not too bad, all things considered for Zig there. Not much vision control for him available. There's Pink Ward that Dandy was using to know that he was going to be safe to walk forward. They do get the Mega Gnar ult out of him, but he's not out of the woods quite yet. Still feels pretty pressured in the lane. Camille can continue to jump off the walls to try and initiate onto him, and the Mini Gnar form just has a really hard time trading back.
We see, as soon as this camp respawns, a little bit of a reset as to what happened around the mid lane not that long ago. We see Mike Young counter-juggling aggressively on Dandy's Raptors, but Dandy now hooks down a bigger objective on the red buff, smites through and secures that one for himself. eUnited trying to get advantage on the top side, trying to get the advantages onto Licorice so that split-pushing Camille can be a big threat that P1, like you said, may not have the direct answer to. On the bottom side, though, they've already won out on the side with the Tristana into the Callista matchup as well. If I say that, Arrow trying to throw Special in for a hook, but the rocket jump away from Tristana keeps Deathly safe.
Trying to do some trick there. Get the angle around the creeps and the turret and all that stuff.
If they wanted to do geometry in the bottom lane, you play Vel'Koz support. Everybody knows that.
Absolutely. Doesn't find the hook. Definitely relatively safe either way. Gold lead still slightly in Phoenix1's favor, just 300, mostly off the back of some CS advantages. All three lanes slightly ahead of their opponent, as well as that first blood advantage that went their way. So we talked about how Phoenix1 probably more focused on trying to get out of this early game without having one of the snowballing solo laners get out of control. They're under a little bit of pressure of that right now with the Camille, but if they can keep it to a single death and keep the CS even, they're going to be pretty happy with that.
And so far, they've done a good job of at least controlling GBM on this LeBlanc pickup. As you said before, LeBlanc could be one of those champions that can absolutely blow an early game open and then snowball that advantage. She still has the potential to do so and is by far not out of this game, but they've been able to control at least one facet of the solo laners on the side of eUnited, while struggling with some of the other lanes so far. It's now looked like eUnited were wrapping around for some vision control, thinking about maybe going for a dive, but a lot of members of P1 are in the area, so it looks like they're just going to back away.
Didn't quite have enough deep vision to know if anyone was in the area or not, and there it was. So a good decision not to brute force that play. They continue to try and keep the pressure up down there, as it's hard right now for Phoenix1 to get some vision control back. GBM out on the map, moving around. Ryu was back in base, just sitting under his turret. So much vision control down for eUnited here. You can see Phoenix1's bot and mid lanes a little scared to play aggressive.
You see GBM on the LeBlanc pickup, like we said. He's been kept a little bit at bay, but still very dangerous champion in the mid lane, as Ryu took a brunt of the trade damage there. Going for what could potentially be the Hextech Gunblade as he gets donated over a blue buff here from Dandy. We'll have to see if GBM's going to be getting himself off the ground, if he's going to be kept in check, or if it's really just going to be all about the Camille show from Licorice on the top side of the map. But the CS advantage is not necessarily as blown open as you would think. Gnar on the top side of the map has kind of caught back up. The bottom side of the map is relatively even, and it's actually Ryu who has the advantage over GBM in the mid lane.
The top matchup, excuse me, is one that's a little hard to blow for the Camille early on in the game. As you get your Triforce and your Tiamat upgrades, you start becoming a larger all-in threat, especially if you start factoring that GBM can come in, teleport in, has multiple ways to get over walls quickly. That's when that becomes a monster problem for Phoenix1. And that's what they're going to have to really try and play around.
See GBM trying to get some trade damage on Ryu, but Ryu working that worked ground, staying relatively healthy. Mike Young dashing forward is not going to throw out the Glacial Attrition. LeBlanc's a little deceptive, but Licorice going to go in the Hextech Ultimatum again. Gets a lot of trade damage out on the Zig. Hookshot's back off the wall and goes back in. Zig very close to transforming, so Licorice has to be careful. He just backs away, and there's actually going to be a pause as well.
Uh-oh. Right as that pause comes in, just off the top side of your screen, you actually have Ryu ulting into that fight. Might be trying to sway that top lane matchup. We're talking about how good Ryu can be with stuff like that. Zig, good step back at the last possible second there to avoid the stun that was going to come in from Camille. And we'll have to see how this situation plays out once we get out of the pause or hear back about what it is even. But you can see how dangerous that top matchup becomes. When you're in Mininar form, Camille has so much range of her engage, and she can time it so well that you'll never get your Mega Gnar before you're dead, and that just becomes a bigger and bigger problem as the game goes on, because while you will be building some health as Gnar, she cuts through resistances and health so well as that Camille pick.
And as you see on your screen here, it was an eUnited pause. They're potentially investigating something going on related to a game bug, and we'll let you know as soon as you hear exactly what that is. Go figure, though. This would potentially be both of us. The second time there's been a pause because of something like a game bug. Yesterday, there was the bug between the Gnar. I think it was the same matchup, wasn't it?
It was Camille and Gnar once again.
But it was Solo who paused, was on the Gnar side of that one.
So we'll have to see exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
But overall, I think you saw some good stuff there out of P1. You saw when in the mid lane, GBM tried to take that trade onto Ryu. Ryu plays it very well. This is what we're talking about. When you pick a champion that is someone else's signature champion into them, they tend to understand the limits of that champion very, very well. He takes the trade, and then Mike Young comes charging out of the jungle because they just saw GBM use his W. They know he's a potential target there, and they chase him out of mid lane. If he tries to step forward and take that fight, he's going to get a nice Sejuani ult in the face. And as a result, that leads up to a situation where while both the mid laner and the jungle are seen on the side of Phoenix1, it also is kiting them towards Licorice, who was just taking that all in on the top side. So very dangerous spot here now for eUnited.
Yeah, and if we kind of just rewind a little bit and try to figure out what was going on with the rest of the game leading up to this point in time, we saw that it was the side of P1 getting some early advantages in the mid lane. We had basically the snipe off onto Dandy after he went from his blue buff over to his Raptor camp again. They kind of were tracking exactly where he was going. We were able to pick up a kill and get Rio the blue buff, which helped contain GBM. But the other sides of the map for eUnited were basically able to, on their own, create advantages in space despite the mid lane going sour.
Right, so that mid lane play is actually one that you can trace back very far into the game to the initial path out of Dandy there, where he goes for a full topside clear, ends up on the top side, gets that gank. You know he starts on Raptors most likely. That's that 4:30 timing that you hear a lot of high-level players talk about that you try and invade around. And because Dandy did such a slow clear of his jungle, he has to do the bot side, pick up his blue buff, do the handoff, all that stuff. And that means that it's going to be hard for him to be back at his Raptor camp at 4:30 without leaving stuff up on the bot side of the map. So Mike Young invades on that, is a little bit ahead due to the fact that he did not take a cheesy gank path, and then they can actually contest that Raptor camp. And that's where it all goes sour from them in the mid lane. So it's one of those plays that when you actually take the steps back to how you got all the way there, it's pretty complicated.
Yeah, so a very long series of events that actually results in that chain reaction. And it basically results in Ryu being able to pick up a kill and pick up an advantage that he was looking to transition into the top side of the map before we entered this pause. Just for an update, they're still investigating what is going on in regards to the potential game bug. So we will let you know as soon as we figure out what exactly has happened in the game from that point forward. But up until this point in time, despite all of that kind of backtracking and all that figuring out what had happened in the mid lane, there was still the fact that that gank path that Rek'Sai took blew the flash on Gnar extremely early on because of the unpredictable gank timing around like the 3-minute and 10-second mark instead of, you know, the earlier 2-something minute gank. Blows the flash on Gnar, and it actually results in a solo kill for the Camille. Yeah,
so you can't say it was a terrible path out of Danny by any means. It did result in an advantage for one of their key win conditions over the course of this game in the split pushing Camille. Like we said, GBM will have multiple opportunities to still get involved in the split push game. He's not completely out of it, just relatively even in farm, and with that teleport can get over, help out with Licorice, get a solo kill onto the Gnar, and then make a really complicated situation for P1. Does Ryu go back and defend? Do they try and brute force an objective? Both Licorice and GBM have teleport. They can join in and make it a 5v4, and you start getting into these complicated situations. That said, Phoenix1 does seem to have been playing them better over the course of this series.
Yeah, Phoenix, well, that's why they're ahead 2-0 at
this
point in time. That's definitely a big showcase as to why they've been playing eUnited a little bit better this series. But eUnited in this game, starting to look like they have the same or very similar advantages, or at least a similar understanding of what their win conditions are compared to game number 1, where they don't have the double late game scaling kind of threats, but they have a better split pushing threat on the Camille compared to the Shen that they had in game number 1. They have a more early game kind of pressure fact. They have the LeBlanc that hasn't been early game pressuring quite yet, but has a double teleport situation. But they also still have the later game scaling of the Tristana that they can fall back onto if the middle stages of the game kind of stalls out or gets a little bit murky for them.
Right. I think the big thing is just seeing the mentality that they're playing with right now on a United side. We saw in game 2, it was still a very aggressive, focused team comp for them. And they played really slow for the most part. GBM couldn't get out of laning phase. He's on this Galio pick that's not making any proactive ultimates, which you always hear is much stronger than a reactive ultimate. And then finally, in this game, yes, they made a mistake around the jungle in the mid lane that results in a deficit, but they're still going aggressive in the bot side. They're still going aggressive in the top side. And while they do have the late game insurance policy a little bit of that Tristana pick, you don't want to just chill out in the early and mid game. You still want to see the Camille and the LeBlanc pick looking for plays.
Right, and while we've gone over a lot of what's happened in this game so far, we're going to kick it on over to Definitely Not Dash and the Analyst while we take a little bit longer to investigate this game bug.
Thank you very much, Decepticon Tom. God damn it. All right, whatever.
Each one.
I got one. All right, you got
one.
one. So anyway, had a little bit of a bug there with Camille in the top lane. They're trying to figure that one out. But let's go ahead and take a look at the champ select a little bit here. Kalista heading on over first pick to V1.
Sure, and I mean, that just kind of goes by the book, right? High priority champion. It's, I think, actually like the #1 presence champion in 715 for bot lane right now in pro play, like right up there with Caitlyn. So yeah, you pick according to the tier list. That makes sense. Even though it didn't win the game last time around, certainly, of course, very, very strong. You expect P1 to be able to use this well.
Yeah, I think there's a mind game going on here between Tristan and Kalista in this series because we've seen Tristana dominate the promotion tournament, but Tristana is dominating in most of the games that Kalista is banned in. So what's happening now is the teams are changing their bans up. They're leaving Kalista through as a way of getting Trist. And both times the teams have essentially gobbled up Kalista because their practice and their scrims and their history tells them that Kalista is superior. But we haven't actually seen it play out in this series. I mean, last game that Kalista did lose. This game that Kalista has lost lane so far to Trist as well. So I think it's working out fairly well for eUnited this game.
And it goes back to a question that I wanted to ask before last break. You go against meta or you go against what feels good. And in this possibly last game here for eUnited, they're going with the meta with the Tristana pick, and Phoenix1 feel comfortable going with their meta pick.
The overall, the global medal of Kalista versus the promotion tournament. And to be fair, Trist is like an 80% presence champion too. These are clearly very good. It's an interesting discussion, and it's one I think you could talk about for a very long time. It's who do you trust more, right? Do you trust your players and your analysts saying, here's what we think is good? GBM likes his Proto Belt Galio, for example. You've got Licorice here bringing out his Camille top, which I like quite a lot. But Camille's like got 6 plays in Pro Play and 716 overall, or 715 overall, right? Like low priority for most teams. So do you trust the world? Do you trust, what the Koreans think about what the best top laners are, or do you trust your own opinion on this one? I like to believe in people's own opinions. I think that players know their own pools very well. I don't like just copying all the global players, but
yeah,
it's certainly up for debate.
And I also think that at a promotion tournament level, it's better to do the things that your players are experts on. Yeah. So we're not exactly sure where it actually falls in the spectrum, how much time they've put on to LeBlanc and Camille, because we also have to think about, for eUnited, the style of their team compositions this series. Game 1, they picked the scaling teamfight composition. Game 2, they picked the tank snowball composition. Right. And Game 3, they picked the split push composition. So they're trying to play a vast variety of styles. And there's teams that are #1 in the LCS that can't play 3 styles at a high level, or at least we have had in the past. So yeah, eUnited is being pretty bold with this, or they're very quickly willing to switch strategies. They say scaling didn't work, throw that out. What's next?
Snowball.
Right?
Comp 2.
They must have practiced all of these things, and in this deciding final elimination game of the promotion tournament, they're going with something that we haven't seen much of them from before.
And that makes sense because eUnited started out in that 0-3 loss to Team Liquid in the first round with a Sivir, Vladimir kind of weird comp, and they kept going back to the Sivir. They were Sivir, and after kind of getting bodied a little bit with the Tristana, they've put in so much more weight on that. But with the picks that they have here, LeBlanc, they want to continue to push that forward. How do you see this playing out if we are able to get the pause fixed up here? Currently, let's just recap, we're at 11 minutes, 2-1 eUnited, even gold, and a lot of pressure in the top lane and a fight in the bottom lane. But what does eUnited need to do to continue to push the lead?
Right. What's super cool about this is I think the teams do have split goals, and you can look at Talia versus LeBlanc. Okay, they're both okay split pushing, and then getting into team fights elsewhere, right? Talia walls over, hopes to push the wave, then join a team fight. LeBlanc just wants to stay off on the side, but they both want to isolate themselves at least a little bit, just with different outputs at the end of it all. Like we saw, for example, Ryu win the game split pushing back in Game 1 yesterday. And also Camille versus Gnar is another great example, where Gnar is a decent 1v1 champion, but then he wants to get Mega Gnar TP in and get a 5-man ulti in a team fight. And Camille wants to just kill Gnar and then kill the turret if he leaves the lane. And that's the clock, right? Is then, okay, well then can the rest of eUnited get the heck away from Gnar, disengage with, the Thresh box or something and a lantern, and then hope they can get away with it as Camille kills a turret and 4 auto attacks? Or does the Gnar get in there? And I like seeing different goals in execution because then you get to see, did that piece work or not?
Yeah, and for 1-3-1 compositions, it's not just what the team that has the 1-3-1 has, it's what the other team can do against it. So they have Camille and LeBlanc, and those can both be seen as split pushers.
Right.
If eUnited is to win this game, I think the Camille being fed is more important than GBM's LeBlanc being fed, because Camille can win 1v1s against either Talia or Gnar.
Yeah.
LeBlanc can win 1v1s against Talia and AD carry, but probably not Gnar, if Gnar has been able to itemize any magic resistance. Camille can make Gnar a little bit squishier from having to stack armor, but I think that's mostly the way it would work. So I think if this game is to play out in eUnited's favor, Camille needs to get ahead. When 2 people go from Camille, the LeBlanc is used to pick people off rather than be a split pusher in her own right. That's how I'd want them to play it. Yeah. But then you look at the side of Phoenix1, if Gnar gets big, shuts down both split pushers, right? So I think the top lane should be the focus for both junglers.
All right, so we'll see where the junglers want to continue to put the pressure on. We're going to go ahead and send it back on over to the casters as they get us back into the game. Guys, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you very much, Degon, and the rest of the desk. We're about to hop back into the game here between Phoenix1 and eUnited. And just to catch you guys up to speed, what we saw a tussle in the mid lane. We saw GBM shying up towards the top side of the map. There was a tussle going on the top between the Camille and the Gnar over there. And then the Talia was about to ride into a Reaver's wall to try to cut off the Camille's exit when suddenly everything slowed down.
Yeah, that's when the pause just hit right then. And we'll have to see exactly what the outcome is, but it's not looking good for Licorice. Has a Ryu showing up right behind him on a Talia pick. And so he is going to be in a world of trouble. We'll have to see exactly how that plays out. But it's a situation that it's a little unfortunate for Licorice. Just pick the time to go all in when you see the jungler and the mid laner of the enemy team, the 2 threats to you for going for solo kills. But the problem is he did it at a time where he saw them not near him, but they're close enough that they can use their mobility to get in range of him. So it was a pretty risky all-in to go for either way. Even if he did get the solo kill on Zig, it most likely gets answered either way by the Talia. That said, you can argue it's still worth it just because you're getting yourself a solo kill. You are the large split push threat, as you heard the analyst that's talking about. Either Zig on the Gnar or Ryu on the Tlee are going to have a hard time matching you if you get off the ground and ahead of the game.
Well, they have gotten a little bit of the advantage on the Camille on the top side of the map, too. There's already been a couple of kills that have gone through this game. Since we had a little bit of a pause coming in, we're going to catch you guys up to speed about how some of these things unfolded throughout the early stages of the game, including the priority around the mid lane here, where Mike Young, despite being a level down, has the read on that 430 Raptor timing and is able to help shut down Dandy.
Right, like we said, Dandy had to clear his bot side jungle, a little low on health. Ryu also just wanted to trade on the mid lane, so he's able to collapse on this a little bit faster. The stun lands, they get the kill. That's all great, but the trade-off was in the top side, we had Dandy blow the flash. And here, another opportunity for Licorice. He goes in and just gets this solo kill onto Zig right as Mike Young's trying to come into range. Turns around and says, all right, I don't want a piece of that after all. Great play by Licorice finding that solo kill. And while a lot of that was going on, bot lane also was going aggressive. Xpecial finds a nice hook, but at the same time, Arrow gets hooked by Zeyzal. He gets CC'd up, and it's easy for eUnited to focus down onto him. Xpecial not looking for that all-in, wasn't blowing his Ignite or anything like that. It was just one of those situations where you pulled a Thresh for some chunk damage, but it actually gave him an angle onto Arrow. He's going to go down there.
Yeah, and kind of the story of this game in general, as you can see from those replays, is like while the junglers are away, the other side lanes will play as there's been back and forth fights pretty much on opposite sides of the rift. And despite the priority that we've seen so far from both Mike Young and Dandy kind of around this mid lane area, P1 was heavily shut down. Ryu specifically in the mid lane in game number 1. They've kind of faltered in that from eUnited side in game number 2, but now once again it kind of seems like now P1 is the one that's trying to get Ryu ahead so you can influence these side lanes, which is where we went right up to the pause where his Weaver's Wall was going right up in the top lane to cut off the Camille.
It's basically both teams trying to play to their win conditions, not only in this game in terms of champions, but also in terms of just who their teams are as their identity, where Ryu is the star playmaker for them on eUnited side. Licorice has been the guy who's really stepped up as the non-import player who can shine in games like this, where he can play the tank style and he can also play the carry style. And after the first 2 games did not work out, where they're more tank focused, they're putting him on the Camille this time around. GBM also a huge factor in terms of his ability to find openings, but a little less consistent sometimes. You can see him look for plays where it doesn't quite work out, or he doesn't back off with some situations when he should have. And that's one of the tough matchups right now for eUnited, is just stacking him up against Ryu.
And that's one of the things that you heard the analyst that's talking about as well. Despite the fact that GB on this LeBlanc has a lot of early game influence, the champion that you want snowballing on eUnited's side is Licorice on the Camille. And that kind of just plays into the factor of how eUnited has historically basically built their entire team's strategy around as well. You have Licorice on the split push. He gets pretty decent teleport usage. He has a very wide variety of champions he can play. When you put him on something like this Camille, you want to get the ball rolling for him as quickly as possible, hit that Trinity Force power spike, and then just pretty much let him distract the rest of the team.
It is a balancing act, of course. While you're trying to get Licorice ahead and arguably the most important player to get ahead on your team, GBM cannot become irrelevant, because if the LeBlanc pick falls behind, the team fighting team comp of Phoenix1 is already maybe better than yours. If you just go straight 5v5, there's very limited tanking available for eUnited. And then if the LeBlanc becomes so irrelevant that you can't really find kills in the split push that easily, or when she comes to join in with Licorice, who is kind of ahead, she doesn't actually add that much other than a chain, you can find a situation where Licorice, yes, is ahead, and it's great. GBM has fallen too far behind.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the opposite side, P1's catalyst is really going to be Ryu out of the mid lane on this Talia pickup, as he had great influence over all the different sides of the map on game number 2. And we'll see if he actually translates that here into game number 3, as we saw the Weaver's Wall coming in from Ryu. Hookshot off the wall from Licorice, so trying to trade damage back down, and Camille will die, but Ryu almost goes down with him.
You see Licorice coming out of that pause, going to go down swinging. We were kind of building up he was going to get collapsed on, and Ryu is able to find that kill, but had to burn the heal there. Getting very close to going down. At the same time, eUnited is going to start off this Infernal Dragon, has so many resources that have been put up to the top side. Now GBM caught slightly out of position.
Ooh, a lot of dipping and dodging and ducking. He's going to get knocked up, stunned up, and taken down as Arrow finds the kill on GBM. Now he's going to teleport into this dragon fight, but the Infernal Dragon has already gone the way of eUnited.
A little bit of distraction there by GBM, saying, hey, look at me. Come kill me while I take the Infernal Dragon with my team. Now that said, it does leave them without a mid laner, so this is going to get focused down by Phoenix1.
Special hits a field goal as Zeyzal immediately takes the hook in there, tries to play them back underneath the tower. This tower, though, is not long for the world, is barely going to survive this push. Arrow just a little bit too short range to land the last couple of auto attacks, and with the rest of eUnited showing up and doing this teleport in from Licorice to defend it. Oh, actually, teleport in from GBM to defend it. P1 has to back away.
I like that the pause has not made these guys any more gun shy. They come out of the break swinging. Licorice goes down the top side. eUnited answer with an Infernal Dragon. GBM kind of gets caught out in the rotation trying to get down there. They get another kill back. They want to transition that to the mid lane, but both teams actively defend. So here's that play once again. First hook shot misses. Licorice baits Zig back out. He's going to re-engage with his ultimate while the hook shot cooldown is coming back up. Once again, trying to play the ranges. Tries to bait Zig back out for the second hook shot. Comes up just short. A good backstep there by Zig. Now Licorice needs to retreat as Ryu's coming in. And you see, he still tries to win this fight. Flash forward into the hook, gets the wall stun up. Has to burn the heal to stay alive, otherwise would have gotten taken down. Really well played by Licorice, but just can't quite clutch out that 1v2.
It was very, very close and a very good effort. But on the back of that, his team does wind up getting an Infernal Drake. But we did see P1 were finally able to brute force down that mid lane tower. It was very, very low to begin with. So now they find themselves at a 2,000 gold advantage, cresting into almost the 15-minute mark of this matchup. So this may potentially be the first time we've seen Phoenix1 riding a lead between the 15 to 20-minute mark in this series.
And one of the interesting things, too, is whenever you talk about split push team comps and dragons they like, you often hear people talk about the Mountain Dragon because I can split push turrets down easier, or I can force the Baron to make it a more difficult decision for them to pick between the two things to focus. Well, one of the other things about split push team comps is often that means you're a higher damage team comp. And the Infernal Dragon is going to scale off your bonus stats. Not, it does scale off total stats as well, but as you build more, you will get more out of it. So the fact that Licorice will build a chunk of AD, GBM will have a lot of AP, it actually benefits their team comp very heavily as well.
Of course, that's why everybody usually favors the Infernal Drake. You deal more damage, you can win more games.
Yeah, every team comp's happy with damage.
Some of them not necessarily as happy with an Ocean or a Cloud Drake, unfortunately. But the split push potential from Licorice, like you said, going to be a huge factor into this matchup. And if eUnited are going to be able to play around it properly, then they could wind up coming out and forcing a series out of this entire best of 5. Whereas P1, if they can respond to it correctly, will be able to seal the deal with a 3-0 sweep of their own and negate the stigma of a 5-game P1 series in the promotion tournament. It's definitely going to disjoint that hook of the Tristana rocket jump, but it looks like the P1 are just now going to continue to apply the pressure across the map to try to threaten tower dives, try to threaten sort of fights, while they want to knock down these outer towers from eUnited as quickly as possible.
Bit of a tricky situation there, a little bit of a game of chicken where Xpecial's trying to run up on Definitely, and Definitely knows he just has to hold the jump until the last possible second. Ryu was on his way up, and now he's on his way up to the top side, though.
Yeah, and Licorice actually going to get flashed on by Zig. The Weaver's Wall cuts him out, and they wind up using the Hextech Ultimatum to lock down Ryu, but the Gnar against the Weaver's Wall is there. Licorice trying to jump out of this one, but Zig's going to pick up a kill.
And there you see the global pressure of Ryu on display. He was down on the bottom side with Mike Young, threatening to dive down there. eUnited spots it out on the ward, and then very quickly transitions back up to the top side to actually make a play there. The power of Talia being used to its fullest by Ryu, able to keep that Camille down, and now things are starting to get a little dicey on eUnited's side. Almost a 3,000 gold lead, as well as the fact that neither of their carries are really completely off the ground in their solo lanes.
We do have the LeBlanc completing a Hextech Gunblade, but as we take a look at this once again, you can just see the Ryu's Talia being able to move across the map so quickly to come up here with the Weaver's Wall to cut off Licorice.
And Licorice has no flash available. He senses as soon as Zig jumps in aggressively in mini form, even though there wasn't a ton of vision for it, he realizes, oh, Talia's got to be on her way up here. And you see perhaps a little bit of frustration on Licorice's face as he goes down for the second time to a Talia roam.
And Ryu here, catalyst for P1 in the promotion tournament. Gets himself a blue buff, has already acquired a Banshee's Veil as well, so he's going to be a little bit more defensive item-oriented against this LeBlanc pickup. Of course, Banshee's Veil is going to be adding a burst of ability power as well, so he will still be dealing some damage. But GBM's LeBlanc at this point in time hasn't necessarily been able to find the roams that we've known him for on these types of champion picks, but has still been able to complete his Hextech Gunblade, so you really can't forget about the fact this LeBlanc is still strong despite having a 0-1-0 scoreline. Actually,
Gonna pick-offs here.
Gonna find a hook down onto the Blitzcrank, but a good Fates call from Arrow will save his support and deny GBM a potentially first kill.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate on the side of eUnited. You're trying to scrap for a kill, find some way to get some gold onto your carries so that they can start getting the split push off, and Kalista just becomes a big no button.
So GBM not too happy about that one. The rest of eUnited probably not super thrilled either, as they do want to try to push these advantages further and further as we get into this game. Infinity Edge first on Tristana, so maybe going against what Freak was talking about with the static shiv rush. And definitely different what Arrow went to. And now Licorice caught in a fight against Zig 1v1, has to burn the flash and the hook shot to get away. So the Black Cleaver and Ninja Tabby beats out Trinity Force.
Big mechanical misplay by Licorice there. Actually used the second proc of his Q on a creep accidentally. Definitely once again showing mastery on Tristana. Probably more than a last minute panic pickup for Deftly in this tournament. But yeah, Licorice loses his flash off a small mechanical misplay. Now pressured very heavily under his turret. Not at all where the Camila wants to be in this matchup.
Not at all. The Hextech ultimatum is available, so Zig needs to be respectful if he wants to try to go for a dive. Still has very low Gnar bar since he was exhausted at that point in time. The rest of P1 now on the bottom side of the map trying to push up advantages and secure this Mountain Drake that is spawned.
Yeah, but up on the top side, Gnar is going to be able to do a ton of work on this turret. Licorice is also going to lose his teleport to keep it up. While Zig was exhausted, he was just going to build it up off the next wave. Licorice does not have a ton of sustain in his kit, so he's going to have a hard time getting his health back up enough so that when Zig does hit Mega Gnar, he would have been safe under the turret. Loses the teleport. Phoenix1 grabs that dragon in a second here.
Eventually. Mike Young's lost his DPS.
Yeah, they left.
There you go.
But yeah, huge kind of chain of effect off the fact that Licorice just hit the wrong target with his Q.
Now we see him in a little bit hard pressed to push against this Gnar, but a lane swap sort of scenarios coming out from eUnited. So they will be sacrificing that tower on the bottom side. The Arrow is working out at the same time. They were trying to pressure down onto Zig on this top side and get one of their later game win conditions back online.
Yeah, but there was a ward on the top side here, so I believe they knew it was coming. That doesn't mean eUnited's not going to try, though.
Flash play and the hook from Zale doesn't land on Mike Young, but it brings a special back into the fray. He knocks up Licorice, so who jumped into this one. Special's rooted. He will wind up going down to Dandy if they pick up the first kill of this fight, but Talia's going to answer the response immediately after. Ryu flashes out to safety, turns back around onto Dandy, gets a double kill, and now Zig hops over the wall. They're trying to chase that onto GBM, tags him with the boomerang, but the distortion of the wall goes right into Arrow, but there's a lantern there to just take him back over the wall. Zazel secures GBM.
Unable to find any exit kills really there for Phoenix1, but they still get 2 on the first portion of that fight. That's one of those situations where Talia becomes so incredibly powerful in the team fight. Everyone is being funneled into a small choke point, and she has no worked ground around her, so she can just kite back and continue to throw out those threaded volleys for max DPS. And the fact that there was 2 tanks in front of her in Mike Young and Xpecial, while eventually they find 1 kill for eUnited, Talia has pelted them so consistently, they're able to find 2.
That was super close. Arrow just rends the Rift Herald full of 1,000,000 spears at the last second as 1955 is when it despawns the Baron buff that was coming right in.
Yeah, barely get that last possible second. Here you see Phoenix1 are aware they're up on this top side. Mike Young gets jumped on first, ends up Xpecial getting focused down, and watch Ryu's damage here, just making sure to stay off his worked ground, finds 1 kill, walks there to pick it up, and then you can actually walk forward with it once you use that AoE. You don't need to stay on that worked ground. Finds a 4th spot for this skirmish, finds a 5th spot for this skirmish, and when Talia is able to find 5 areas of unworked ground, her damage becomes insane.
So Ryu showing that he knows how to work the worked ground on Talia. Now going to be kicking off Dandy. Look at the burst damage coming out from this. Just Leandri's Torment and Banshee's Veil picked up. And Ryu, they definitely have not stuck to the condition of trying to keep him down 4-0-1. And now Zig on the backside.
Buffed up.
Yeah, Licorice has been able to take down a tower. Look, he's lost half of his HP for it as Zig came in and transformed into the Mega Gnar form.
LeBlanc was moving down from the mid lane. Zig didn't want to push his luck there. Pretty happy with how this game's going overall right now for them. Up to a 4,000 gold lead. They grabbed that Mountain Dragon. And now they're trying to pressure down their last outer turret of the game.
See Arrow and Xpecial matching the rotation from Deftly and Zazel. Mike Young, just on the backside of this fight, though, has the Glacial Prison available. And also has the Eye of the Herald on his Sejuani too, so if they want to try to use this to knock down the last outer tower, they can wind up popping that one and they go for a push. Or they can save it, potentially go for an inner tier 2 tower, in addition to the fact that they have now, looks like both Ryu and Zig on the opposite sides of the map. Ryu, though, rotating up, puts the Weaver's Wall down. They're going for this tower take, and Deftly and Zazel are there. Deftly actually going to jump into the wall, has to flash over it, and now he's left his support high and dry to die. That's going to be teleport being burned from GBM as he doesn't come in, and Deftly actually just goes down on the backside, too. Double kill picked up for Arrow.
And this is such a good play out of Phoenix1. They know that's the last turret. They want to telegraph it. eUnited does not respect that. They don't back off far enough. The Talia wall cuts them off. Definitely also gets popped back in by Ryu afterwards. And now we talk about not wanting to use the Rift Herald on the outer turret. They just used it on the inner one, and gonna be able to take an inhib turret as well.
22 minutes in, P1 are trying to fast track their way out of the promotion tournament. Inhibitor tower winds up going down. They're actually focusing down on the inhibitor as well. Rift Herald does charge at those two. So about half HP on that. eUnited, though, are trying to respond just by taking an outer tower, but they've lost 3 consecutive on the top side.
Yeah, last time we checked a second ago, it was a 7,000 gold lead. Up now to almost...
About the same.
It's about the same. I lied, Tom.
Last time you checked was when that tower went down because they took them that fast. That's what happened.
Yeah, so overall, though, Phoenix1 doing so well here. They have another Infernal Dragon coming up soon. They have a better team fight comp. They'll probably be able to get this one. And just watch Ryu again. Such a great mastery on Talia. Able to get involved, cuts the wall out, forces the flash out of Deathly. And here, Deathly is just walking a little bit too close. Finds the bounce back onto him while trusting his team to finish off the Thresh. That secures them the second kill of that skirmish. And then they're going to be able to push this one down. They drop that Rift Herald and continue to balloon this lead.
Same time, looks like GBM tried to get a catch down onto the Blitzcrank, but oh no.
That's a sad LeBlanc right there. Everybody, whoa, coming out of that replay, Licorice.
Goes down.
Just taken out by Zig.
Solo kill.
A nice solo kill there, and a 2-item Gnar, no joke, in the side lane, able to find a kill on that Licorice Camille.
23 and a half minutes in. It's 5 towers to 2. P1 have blown this map completely open. They're the ones that have the Kalista this time around, and they're the ones showcasing how if you have a Kalista, you don't have the most damage on that kind of champion, and how you want to execute this like very beefy frontline kind of composition. Granted, they don't have the Galio that eUnited had in game number 2. Instead, they have a very fed Ryu, who once again finds Deathly as Special gets the kill credit for that. This is going to be tower number 6 going down.
Just finds an easy pick off onto Deathly, not ready for that seismic shove, puts him right back into the team. They get blown up instantly. That Dragon's going to be up in 20 seconds. You can expect P1 to grab that. Infernal Drake and continue to snowball this game. It's looking like they're on their way to breaking their trend here. Going to get a potential sweep and get their way back into the LCS.
It could be. Don't necessarily want to break out the brooms just yet. eUnited, though, has been on the trend in this promotion tournament where the games or the matches they play in only go to 3 games. They were the recipients of a 0-3 and then a 3-0. And the last thing they want here is in the final promotion tournament, in the final series, to bow out without taking a game off of the LCS counterpart here in P1, who 10 kills to 3, 2 dragons stacked up, and 46.3 to 37.9k gold advantage. Looking like they just want to get the heck out of the promotion tournament.
Gonna see now transitioning to the Baron control phase of the game. They finish off with Dragon, not gonna be up for 6 more minutes. 25 minutes in the game, as well as a very tanky Sejuani with that Warmogs completed. Gonna be able to force down around the Baron buff. They're gonna have really nice objective securing with that Kalista, able to set up all those Ren stacks. Talia does really nice damage to the Baron as well. And they can even try and turn off. They have the Blitzcrank to hook, Gnar to go in with the teleport, potentially Mike Young's ultimate. So P1 have all the tools and the gold lead to grab this Baron buff in the next couple minutes.
But they need to have the execution, and that's what's plagued them thus far in the promotion tournament. It's also what plagued them in the NA LCS. And we saw them going toe-to-toe with some of the top-tier playoff teams. We'll get to see just playing next week, the quarterfinal startup. So no lull in League of Legends action coming up, but P1 have always had a little bit of struggles around this Baron pit area, whether the Baron gets stolen away, whether they wind up losing a team fight, whether they wind up making the wrong decision to turn and burn or just fight the enemy team. We'll see if their decision-making with this gold lead can prompt them into an exit out of the promotion tournament as eUnited in the dark on that top side of the map compared to P1. Have to be very, very careful about checking any of these brushes, but also have to be very careful with the fact that they can just run right up the mid lane. They look on to Dandy, though. The Lantern is there from Zeyzal. Dandy's going to be able to get out alive, but he's burning down, gets the lock of the Iron Solari shield. Zeyzal's going to wind up putting the box up here, but GBM's going to get knocked up. And meanwhile, Zig is taking down a solo kill onto the Camille on the bottom side of the map. Ryu flashes forward. The heal for the speed boost is enough. He's unstoppable as he takes down GBM.
Just barely able to find a kill in that skirmish. Dandy was able to get out of range before Kalista could get her Rend off to secure the kill. And like you said, while all that fighting was going on, Licorice had taken a 1v1 down the bot side. Looked like he was doing pretty well in it, but actually came out on the tail end dying. So Phoenix1, they get 2 kills on the solo laners. They're going to start this Baron buff off, and while Dandy is alive with his smite, it's against the Kalista. They're going to have a hard time securing it. And there it goes down for Phoenix1.
P1, we said, hey, how are they going to secure the Baron buff? Well, they do it this way by taking a fight and winning it, but this is what's going on at the exact same time this fight breaks out.
So you see as the fight breaks out, Licorice knows he has some one-on-one time with this Mini-Gnar, sees he's at very low percent, trying to get it off, and it's just a small situation. The flash away avoids that Triforce proc at the very end. Might have been able to get the kill. Licorice comes up short just again. Gnar has received too many kills over the course of this game to be able to win that 1v1 underneath the turret. Licorice now at 5 deaths, most in the game, as Phoenix1 has complete control.
It still showcases the absolute power of the Camille pickup, though. Despite being now 1-5-1, the only reason he lost that trade was he went underneath the tower and blew the Gnar's flash and everything. So still showcasing why the Camille was such a priority in the way that eUnited were playing out the earlier stages of the game, and why P1 were so focused on trying to shut her down as quickly as possible. But the rest of the sides of the map, despite the bottom side from eUnited being very effective early game, that has fallen off this point. Now 1-2-1 on Deathly's Tristana. The Weaver's Wall coming out to zone away most members of eUnited, and they can't contest this inhibitor tower that's going down. P1 going to be knocking down the first inhibitor in the mid lane, having naked inhibitor on the top side they can just rotate straight up to, even though Licorice on the Camille's on the bottom side of the map, trying to potentially do it with the Gnar split push. The rest of his team is losing their base.
First inhibitor down, second one soon to follow. Phoenix1 up above 10,000 gold now. Grab those two objectives, and now only 28.5 minutes into the game. eUnited's gonna have a hard time defending this third one. You can expect Phoenix1 to reset, use that little bit of gold that they just got, and group up as 5 down this bot lane. They could potentially still split Zig or someone away to escort those super creeps into the base. With that little bit of Baron buff they have left, minute and a half remaining. But they can also just group up as 5, and there's no way for eUnited's team comp to really find a way to get a kill here unless there's a miracle Thresh hook somehow onto one of the carries. But Banshee's Veil on Ryu, QSS on Arrow. It's going to be very, very difficult to find a priority target.
And they know that they have to eventually defend the base from these double waves of super minions that are pushing in from the top and mid lane as well. So P1 don't even need to opt into a fight that could potentially go sour for them. But it looks like they are going to be contesting vision in the bottom side area of the map. GBM tries to go over and land a chain. Just starts right back out. P1 taking this one the safe way. They're going to wind up utilizing the fact they have super minions as their split pushers now. Grouping 5 up strong on the bottom side of the map, and just controlling the vision between the areas they can rotate to and the areas they're going to attack, getting the last remaining outer tower on the map.
Good to see us out of Phoenix1, not getting over aggressive and just taking that 5v5 because they're stronger. We've seen them get a little antsy at points in this over this weekend where they give up a late game fight, even in the series, getting both their carries killed in front of the enemy team's Nexus. Instead, they wait for the super creeps to do the work for them. eUnited has to back off. They take the outer turret. Now they're going to work on the inhibitor turret.
Licorice is grouped up with the rest of his team. This tower's about to go down. You say this is where you go, but GBM has gone down already. eUnited are now in a 4v5 situation. Their last remaining inhibitor is not going to stand for that much longer. Ryu is actually sitting there zoning Dandy out of his own base. Angel's going to wind up going and tries to get the play in the box down. Licorice jumps into the back line. They've locked down on the arrow, but Licorice is going to go down. Dandy's going to follow. Definitely gets one kill. He has to flash his way out of there. Zazel's going to fall, and now it's just Deathly's Tristana against the world. P1 are chasing after Tristana to get her out of the base because they are focusing down on the Nexus on the other side. Phoenix1, they are going to escape the clutches of the promotion tournament in style with a 3-0 sweep over eUnited.
Phoenix1 exit the final match of the final promotion tournament ever. The victors in a dominating 3-0 over eUnited. They controlled the series all the way through, showing multiple game plans, and Ryu coming up clutch again, 5-1-7 on that Talia pick. A huge factor in influencing that top side, making sure Licorice never got off the ground, because like you said, that Camille, even when shut down, is terrifying. But it was too well of a game plan played out there by Phoenix1.
You can see the looks and smiles of relief on their faces. They were playing throughout the NA LCS Split. They didn't think they would be in the promotion tournament, and they went up 2-0 against Team Liquid yesterday, and then got reverse swept. They come into this series here against eUnited, who took it to GCU in a very hard fashion, 3-0 of their own. And now P1 emerged victorious, don't even drop a game in this last series. This will be the last we see of P1 for the remainder of the year.
They are done as we move into the playoff portion. They had championship points from getting third in spring, but those are gone from having to play in this tournament. So those guys will be relieved to hear that they are done with this tournament. They have succeeded, and now they get to enjoy a vacation and watch the rest of the playoffs and Worlds eventually.
And eUnited came in here showcasing the fact that, I mean, after day one where they got 3-0 by Team Liquid, people were thinking that they were the weaker of the two challenger teams, that they were just going to basically be walked over by GCU, but they took 3 games to 0 against GCU, and even in this series against P1, they lost 3-0, but they definitely had moments in these games where they showcased their ability as 5 individual players, and they worked well together as a team. They just were unable to come out on top and seal the deal in these games.
I feel like they got to be able to keep their heads high a little bit, especially the 3 domestic players that they were rookies last split. They had a good showing in the regular season, but they came up short in both the playoffs to GCU and the promotion tournament. And then this time around, they do get a little bit of revenge on their way out. They take out GCU, like you said. That was one of their demons over the course of the past year, where they just seemingly lost every important series to them. And they gave themselves a shot here today, but Phoenix1 was just a little bit too good.
And Phoenix1 was definitely the better of these two teams as they took the series and will now move out of the promotion tournament. I mean, the fate for the team themselves is still a little bit undetermined, but I mean, now we have the fact that, I mean, if you just look back at the promotion tournament in total, like we have seen the fact that this has kind of been an emerging story of not just like which team is better, but like an emerging story of the actual players themselves. Because we had Team Liquid coming into this promotion tournament. They were a team built for the promo tournament, and we saw their individual skill, and we saw them being able to tear through the competition in doing so. P1 was kind of a bit of a redemption story. They didn't expect to be here. People expected them to actually be one of the weaker teams in the actual overall tournament. They come out and emerge out of the promotion tournament in a 3-0 style. And even the challenger team showcasing the individual talent, not just the players on eUnited you mentioned with the sophomore players, but also individual members of GCU and just being able to come out, like Wyan subbing in for Mad Life. Just the story of these players showcasing what they can do on stage here.
Yeah, I think Licorice in particular was one of the guys everyone had their eye on over the course of this tournament. Had some good performances, had some unfortunate ones as he got focused down heavily by Ryu there.
Yeah, and well, to hear more about that series from the players' perspective, we're going to head stage side where Avali May has an interview with one of Phoenix1's support.
Thanks, guys. Great cast on the day. I am here with Xpecial. Congratulations on that win, first of all. I want to ask you a little bit about your time with Phoenix1. Now, Phoenix1 over the split, they've had extremely high highs, going from crushing at Rift Rivals to the low lows and being the second team to qualify in the promo series. What has your experience with this team over the split been like?
I think it's been a rough season for everybody on the team. We're happy that we pulled it out towards the end. I mean, but in the end, we're disappointed. We wanted to do well, wanted to go to Worlds. Like, that was the goal as a team. And to not accomplish that, it's very disheartening, but we played well today and we won, and in the end, that's what you can hope for.
Well, you've actually just finished your 10th split in the competitive League of Legends series, so congratulations on that. Do you have any fun plans for the off season, or is it just going into the practice grind?
I'm definitely gonna take some time off. It's been a really long season, like I said, and I mean, even though I haven't been with this team for very long, I'm gonna miss these guys, and like actually losing, I mean, playing these games, it just reminds you like this is probably the last time I'll play with these guys. And even though I didn't play with them very long, it's always sucks too.
It's all right. It's all right. Do you want to say anything to your teammates?
We all tried really hard. And it sucks to end this way, but I want to wish everyone the best of luck. I feel bad for all, like, Mike and stuff, being a rookie and for him to do so well. And then our team just wasn't able to pull together. For everyone that worked so hard, Ryu, Arrow, Zig, and the manager people, losing sucks. And it's been really rough for everybody. So we deserve this break, and I just hope everyone can come back stronger and just do even better next year.
Look, Xpecial, don't feel too bad. I'm sure your entire organization is proud of you. Your teammates are proud of you, and I am so proud of you watching you play, and all of your friends and fans are proud of you as well. Congratulations on your win, and we're going to throw it over to the analyst desk.
All right, thank you very much, Avali. And you get to see what it really means here to not just Phoenix1, the organization, but especially who's been in the league forever.
Yeah, it's a reminder of how much these players care about winning.
Yeah.
Right? I know that it was a huge blow for this Phoenix1 team to not make Worlds, right? So they get Mike, they get X-Special, they start winning, they go to Rift Rivals, they beat the best teams in Europe.
Right.
Those expectations were very real, right? And then devastating in one hand to get knocked in the promotion tournament, and probably devastating again to not sweep it, right? And be the 10th place in the LCS. So my heart goes out to X-Special because you know these guys are trying. These are not guys that didn't succeed because they just didn't care or something. Like, every player that is still in the LCS is there because they want to be there. They're professionals, and they try every single tournament to win.
And they were able to go ahead and pull this one out 3-0 over eUnited. And it was a combination of gameplay, it was a combination of teamwork, but we saw a lot of great plays on the Rift today, and we want to highlight one single individual who stood out in their performance to earn Player of the Series, and today it's awarded to Ryu yet again for the second time in the promotion tournament.
And he definitely played his heart out as well, had some very strong performances. You're seeing, sick stuff on Syndra as well, and it was a bit hard to call out. You saw, Special say all of his teammates worked very hard. Muck Young got name dropped in there as well. I thought he was in the running, and it was just good to see that, these players, even if they were having a disappointing season, if they were not doing as well as they wished they would, they still came into this one, a couple of 5-game series back-to-back, then put it together for this one, played maybe the best games they did of this entire weekend, and pulled out a pretty solid win.
And one of the great parts about this is Ryu stepped away because of the burnout that he was feeling and because that he thought he needed a break, but came back in times of need. And again, that bond that everyone felt together, he comes back and puts on one heck of a performance.
Yeah, and I think one thing Phoenix1 did do, right, they showed that they were the 10th place team in North America. That's one thing the promotion tournament ends up telling us, is you have the 2 top challenger teams against the 2 bottom LCS teams. And even after the disappointment of not making Worlds, my heart goes out to this Phoenix1 team because they proved they are professionals and that they can play this game at a high level.
Yeah.
And especially after going up 2-0 in both of the series, winning out on Friday, losing out on Saturday, to finish strong, this was probably their best game they played in the promotion tournament. In the end, they should be proud of that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it comes down to, right, like, what was this tournament about, right? And it's the players proving that they are the 10th best team in North America. And that is by no means bad. Being the 10th best in an incredibly popular game in your continent, these guys are incredibly good competitors, right? And whatever the landscape looks like in 2018, you expect these guys, a lot of them, to get picked up, to be noticed because of what they did this split. Worlds or not.
Yeah, and I think it is important to clear up some misconceptions. I'm seeing $3 million being thrown around in a lot of different threads online because that is a misconception about teams that are outside of the LCS or CS ecosystem having to pay an additional $3 million if their application is accepted to the LCS. That difference doesn't exist for LCS and CS teams. If any of these teams get their application accepted for next season of the LCS, they will pay the same fee. There was a minor difference based on essentially years of service of how long they've been an LCS team or CS team, and there will be a minor difference in that formula depending on the results of this. Now, the Phoenix1 would have been an LCS team in 2018, but mostly these teams were playing for exposure, and you could still see how much they cared about it.
Right, so once again, congratulations to Team Liquid and Phoenix1 for defending their position on the NA LCS. And so one last time, let's spin it out. And while we close out today the promotion tournament, it's still just the beginning of our summer postseason. We return this weekend for the first round of the playoffs. On Saturday, Cloud9 takes the stage against Team Dignitas, and Sunday plays host to CLG versus Team Envy. Guys, thoughts on your matchups here?
Well, I can't wait for the playoffs, right? The playoff teams are the highlights of the North American LCS Summer Split, and I think we're thinking 5 strong at least in the playoffs, but you never know with CLG versus Envy.
Yeah, I think the first quarterfinal is super huge. I think whoever wins that is guaranteed at least 3rd, with Omar God coming in for CLG. I think they're the weaker of the expected semifinalist teams, even though CLG comes in 3rd seed. That roster move came in. And FlyQuest are hoping that CLG wins because a CLG quarterfinal win means FlyQuest makes it to the regional qualifier because they will beat out Team Envy in points. So that's like another match to really watch for.
All right, a lot to watch there, but that's going to have to do it here from us. So on behalf of myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week for the Summer Split playoffs.